Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Shea Station podcast. It's episode 120. We had a lot of things planned for this episode. We might have had Steve Gelbs on. We were thinking about maybe doing a bullpen episode, and then Steve Cohen said, fuck all of that. You're doing an episode on the Mets signing Carlos Correa to a 12-year deal. I am still wrapping my head around this. I assume you are as well, my co-host, Jerry Blevins. Jerry, just raw thoughts here.
First of all, shout out to Danielle on Twitter. She said, "I can't wait." That was my first thing I said or I read when I woke up, and I opened Twitter after my 3-year-old smacked me in the face. Was I can't wait for Jolly and Jerry to wake up, and I was like, "What happened in the Mets universe?" Um, wow! I thought it was a ploy. I thought their actual conversations with Carlos Correa were a just a drive the price up kind of deal, and which it did. It forced San Francisco to go big time. But they weren't messing around. I am
No,
so
man.
shocked. The power bats that the Mets were looking for, that player, the young, they got some youth into his old, but like I'm just absolutely blown away at this signing. Blown away.
It's I'm still like having trouble wrapping my head around it because I had the same wake up as you did a little bit later. Um, and I thought it was like, joking around at first. And I don't think I'm ever gonna live down the sleepy guy moniker. I was the one that slept through the 12 inning Giants game back in May that the Mets almost won and came back in. And then I got a lot of, fun stuff for that. This is never going to end. But with this Mets signing, I mean, so he signed with the Giants a week ago. We saw yesterday with the Associated Press. So when you see baseball news in the Associated Press, you have to take that kind of heavily because they're not a outlet that really reports on that kind of thing. And they reported the snafu in his medical. And I don't know if there was some kind of disagreement between the sides. I think the Giants wanted to pull out to maybe renegotiate or something like that. And credit to Steve Cohen and the Mets brass because they were on this thing. They swooped in at the last second. They must have a nice connection with Scott Boras because I think he was very willing to entertain that immediately. And the Mets get him for a price that was probably cheaper than their initial offer last week.
I don't know. I feel like that's probably the offer they made.
Yeah,
I
you
feel
think so?
like they were probably like, look, man, we like your medicals. When you're a free agent, teams, the first thing they do is reach out to your agent or your former team and say, we would like to take a look at his medical information. So they get
Right.
the whole file on you and they can check it out and they can see what's going on. Obviously, you go in for further testing, you agree to a contract, you go in, get MRIs, whatever the case may be. But the Mets seem to not mind whatever the popped up. It could have been, my first thought was like there's a hip issue, which
Mm,
is pretty normal for guys.
yeah.
Something that might require surgery in the offseason. I had hip surgery in 2010, right after the season, and I didn't miss a beat. I was in spring training, these are things that are minor. So I'm curious to see. I can't wait for that tea to be spilled because I can't wait to see what Carlos Correa said. We already know he's not afraid to be a villain.
Yeah.
With the way he stood up for him and his teammates, himself. He did the whole "It's my time now" after the home run. Um, so I'm interested to see. He's going to speak his mind and speak the truth. And I can't wait.
I mean, I'm really glad you brought up that point because I think this is important for all Mets fans to hear. We kind of know it by now, but you go back to that 2015 team. They're lovable underdogs. They catch lightning in a bottle. They ride it to the World Series. It's this really feel good story. Uh, People are really gonna not like the Mets if they're not a Mets fan. I think we kind of have to embrace the fact that we are behaving like the Yankees of old and kind of the Yankees of current because they still spend a lot of money this season. And Carlos Correa is going to be the face of that. You mentioned that he's not afraid to kind of be that villain. And I mean, when you look at this Mets team that is now committed $806.1 million to free agents just this winter, 4.6 of Steve Cohen's reported net worth percent of that, you kind of have to look at the team and say, okay, this is like looking like an evil empire. He's doing whatever it takes in this ruthless path, this ruthless endeavor to win a World Series in 3 to 5 years. And the Mets get arguably the greatest poster boy they could have possibly gotten for that moniker.
Yeah. Uh, so this is the one. This is the one that blew my mind. This is
Yeah.
the one. The Verlander thing is high AAV, short-term contract.
Feels so long
You
ago.
don't have to sacrifice anything. The same thing they did with Scherzer. That made sense. They went out and signed Edwin Diaz, who really young to a 5-year deal. He spent 100 million, but again, Edwin Diaz was otherworldly and the best on the market. People would have paid that. Like they needed a closer.
Right.
If he would have left, they would have kind of been in shambles a little bit in the bullpen. Not even a little bit. They would have been in complete
Big
shambles in the
time.
bullpen.
Big time.
So that made sense. Who else did they sign? Quintana, very
Quintana
reasonable
was a
deal.
great deal. They traded for
2 year.
Brooks Raley. You know, they
Brooks Raley trade was smart.
David
You had
Robertson.
David Robertson was a guy again, a short term deal. Kodai Senga was kind of a wild card flip of the coin, but this one blows my mind. This blows my mind. I was thinking that he's like, yeah, I'm pushing this tax threshold, the Stevie Cohen tax. We're gonna pay it. It's gonna be a lot, but that's fine. And I was like, all right, well, maybe they go out for Conforto to add some power from the left
Yeah.
side, which is he's still out there. Who knows now? I don't know. He might be, but um, but Correa, man, I did not see it coming.
I mean, you mentioned pushing the luxury tax before. This is, obliterating it and proving it to be, just a non-factor in their spending efforts. Um, I'm still like really trying to not be discombobulated when I'm saying this, but yeah, Carlos, we forgot Brandon Nimmo for 162 million dollars, basically the entirety of the rotation. They just threw 15 million dollars at a catcher last week for fun. Adam Ottavino yesterday for another 15 million. Money is no object to Steve Cohen. It really is not. And I think we kind of saw it. We saw the Lindor deal and we got really amped up about that. The Scherzer deal in response to a lot of things, spreading the money on Escobar and Marte and Canna. This is something that has never happened in sports history. There's nothing that you can really compare this spending spree to in terms of the fact that Steve Cohen is spending 20 times the amount of worth that other franchises in his own league are worth just in general. And it's so bizarre because for a Mets fan, since, for the past decade plus, in 2015, I was amped up for Michael Kandahar on 2 years and I think $20 million. When Jason Bay signed initially, I was like, this is a dream come
That
true.
was a big deal, though. That was a
It
big
was
deal.
a big deal. Don't get me wrong. Those were all huge
Don't
signings.
bring that up right now. Mets
I'm
fans don't
sorry.
want
I
to hear
know. I'm
about
sorry.
Jason
No,
Day.
I know. And with this, it's just one domino after the other because I didn't really expect Verlander, and then it happened, and I was excited. We both kind of thought Nimmo was out the door a little bit because of the competition. He comes back, we're even more excited. Kodai Senga comes over for a cheaper price than we expected. We're excited. This is a different emotion that I don't think I've ever felt before. This is like almost comical disbelief that this happened. Comical
Yeah,
disbelief.
it's gonna those owners meetings are gonna be interesting.
They're gonna
Get
be
some phone calls. They
mad.
are mad. Jerry Reinsdorf in Chicago is not feeling real happy. Um, Apart from that, I love the deal for Correa.
Yeah,
I love it. He's
love it.
only going to be 28 next year. This is his second foray into free agency. He couldn't get a big deal his first time. He sees all these guys, Dansby and Trey Turner, getting these huge deals, and he feels left out. He
Yeah,
was probably the best defender amongst that group. Xander Bogaerts too. He was
best
probably
arm
the
for sure.
the best arm. Um, Probably the most consistent hitter, I would say. Top to bottom, he kind of is a 20 homer guy.
I mean, do you want to do the resume
Yeah,
right
let's
now?
do a quick scouting report because he's been in the American League his whole career. So
Yeah. So this guy's former rookie of the year, two-time All-Star, won the 17 World Series with the Astros. Asterisk, we all know that. a gold glove, a platinum glove on top of that, which I think is a huge deal. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons of an OPS plus above 130, meaning he's 30% better than the league average hitter. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons of at least 20 home runs. This guy has been the epitome of consistency, basically only one down year, and that was in 2020, which was kind of a weird year for everybody. And last year, he kind of took a bet on himself with the Minnesota Twins. Quietly had a good year because the Twins didn't do much last season. They battled for the AL Central, but ultimately fell out. Still put up the 291 batting average and 834 OPS, 64 RBIs, 24 doubles, 22 home runs. Still drew a ton of walks as well. The strikeouts might be a little bit of an alarm for some fans, but I don't think any fan is upset with 12 for 315 for Carlos Correa, who is only going to be, as you said, 28 years old.
Yeah, I feel like
Jerry, your laugh is like
I am laughing. It's crazy to me. This is the dream. This is the dream. Also kind of a nightmare because
yeah.
again, you're going to be the villains. The target is 100% on the back of the Mets. Everybody besides Mets fans want to see the Mets fail, I think.
Yes, I definitely agree with that.
But I like it, man. I
Yeah.
love Correa. I mean, the fact that Minnesota, a couple of things. Minnesota, who doesn't do really long-term deals, did a short-term deal for Carlos Correa for the 1-year high AAV. And then they offered him another huge contract because they say he's changed the way their organization feels. So he's a glue guy.
Yeah.
In a clubhouse. He's a glue guy in an organization. He's at 28 years old. The Twins, who don't spend, who are notoriously good at like developing their guys and keeping them in house, said, "We got a taste of you. We want to keep you around for the long term to help our ball club." The San Francisco Giants went out, tried to get Aaron Judge and failed because Aaron Judge is one of those type of guys.
Right.
Then they made a huge push for Carlos Correa and actually agreed to a deal. That interview process, they're not going to bring in a sour grapes kind of guy. They're not going to bring in a wet blanket style player, a very selfish player. Unbelievable. And the fact that Steve Cohen and Billy Epler and those guys were like, "Hey, right away, okay, come back. We don't care.
Yeah.
We don't care about whatever the medical issue is. Our offer still stands. Let's sign it." Boom.
Just
It's
crazy.
unbelievable.
I
I
mean,
like
Jerry,
the sign.
you mentioned those Minnesota Twins. They're really good at developing homegrown talent. Greg Harvey, who gives us great stats sometimes, has the top team spending over the last 3 off seasons. Twins are up there. They're 10th overall at $355 million spent through the past 3 seasons. The Mets, who are number 1, have now spent 5 times that amount at $1.6 billion. Just a like 800 million more than any other team, second place being the Yankees. You look at the combined OPS plus of the infield now from last season. Pete Alonso, 143. Jeff McNeil, 143. Francisco Lindor, 127. Carlos Correa, 140. That's an infield that's basically collectively 40% better than the league average infield. And one thing we actually haven't talked about is that the Mets have a couple of young guys that we thought they were kind of excited about. Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, couple third basemen. Those guys are blocked now. It's done. So what's going to happen? Is Brett Beatty now a left fielder? Is he a trade candidate now? Is he a DH? There's a lot of questions to answer with this new surplus of talent you have. And Carlos Correa and Francisco Lindor are your left side of the infield for the next decade plus. Like those are going to be 2 lifetime Mets, guys that will get up to the top 5, maybe even top 3 of all-time Mets hitters. And that hasn't set in for me yet until I spoke it out loud. Crazy.
Sleepy Jolly. He's just all this is fresh off the top. It's crazy. The Brett Beatty thing, I think he needed seasoning anyway. There was a lot of talk about him being on the team and possibly playing over Escobar. I thought Escobar was the guy coming in, and he was going to be. I guarantee.
I forgot about Eduardo Escobar. What happens to him?
Yeah, he's a trade candidate or a bench, off the bench, kind of guy. Maybe that's your. I don't know. That's interesting. But Beatty, Vientos needed seasoning. Beatty's exciting. Vientos doesn't have a position anyway.
Right.
Doesn't project to be a DH first baseman style anyway with Pete Alonso there. The one guy that I'm curious about, those guys are going to AAA. They might be trade pieces. Who knows?
Who
It
knows?
happened. They're not the only guys to ever be blocked behind a superstar. Um, Shout out to Ronnie Mauricio, who is the Dominican Winter League MVP,
Jesus.
who played great. He can also still find a spot on this team. It's
Yeah.
not, but Francisco Alvarez, does he fit on this team? I don't know.
I'd
The
like to
Omar
think so.
Narvaez thing shocks me that they signed him
Right.
because you have Nito, you have McCann, um, and Alvarez. So you have four catchers, four big league catchers.
Yeah, I mean the youth movement from the Mets top prospect list kind of got a halt this morning. And I mean it's exciting for us. And I still think Alvarez is a guy that could make this opening day lineup and all that. And what a squad of guys to learn from and really assimilate with. I mean, we talk a lot about, getting proven winners on the ball club. And I mean, now we have two guys that have won. One of them won a World Series last year in Justin Verlander. One of them, won a World Series while being the greatest baseball villain maybe ever. And if you needed two guys to kind of lead the charge and really instill some expertise and wisdom into the younger guys on your roster, I think you found a pretty good pair.
Yeah, man, it's super impressive. Super impressive what they've been able to do. I am not sure how I feel about it. Like, I
Okay.
love it. I love it. I think it's great. You're spending money. You have it. Do what you got to do. He's not breaking any rules. And you're not guaranteed to win anything.
That's true.
Guys have underperformed. So I like the move. I'm thinking about the economics of the game of baseball.
Yeah.
All I know is there's guys out there getting paid what they deserve. They are not overpaying for anybody. Carlos Correa is less than what was actually offered him. Justin Verlander deserved what he got. He's a Hall of Famer. Same with Max Scherzer. Same with Brandon Nimmo. Same with Edwin Diaz. It's wild to think that this is what you can do with your empty, like, the absolute bottomless pockets. This
Yeah,
is
man.
incredible.
And
For Alvarez,
yeah,
up until today, I thought Alvarez was your everyday catcher because they lacked another power bat, and that's
right.
what he projects to be. They're gonna let him be a guy that just flounders if he needs to be. Let him get his sea legs underneath him. I don't know anymore because Correa is going to be that guy. I imagine. So here's my lineup. Here's my lineup off the top of my head. Brandon
Sure.
Nimmo,
Yeah.
Jeff McNeil batting
Interesting.
second, Francisco Lindor third, Pete Alonso fourth, and then Carlos Correa fifth.
That's a banger
So
1 through 5.
that is a banger 1 through 5. Carlos Correa protects Pete Alonso.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
we've been looking for that forever. Like, who
Forever.
is going to protect Pete Alonso? Can anybody
Yep.
step up and do it? And now he has that secure. Also, if you're Pete Alonso and Jeff McNeil, what are you thinking right now? Are you thinking, hey, Steve Cohen, can I get a deal as well? Can we get something going so I can get locked up too?
I guarantee it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's wild, dude.
Well, I mean, you think back to the '06 Mets, you're thinking about the core of Wright and Reyes and Delgado and Beltran, and this is the future. And we're looking at that core now. This is that core, these 5 guys of Nimmo, Correa, Lindor, Alonso, McNeil. That needs to be the Mets for the next decade. And if you can kind of lock up those 2 guys on top of it, you're going to be in that 100-win category. You have a chance for that every year, which is, the Mets just had their second best season in franchise history last year. And Steve Cohen is putting you in a position to do that now every single season.
Yeah.
Just an absolute headspin. Absolute
It
headspin.
really is. It really is like a whirlwind. Like the baseball world, the Twitterverse exploded. It's wild. Everybody's feeling the same way because I feel like the Giants. I feel bad for Giants fans.
You know what? I was gonna say that this morning, and I kind of didn't want to like damper anything for Mets fans, but yeah, I feel really bad for Giants fans.
I don't, first of all, I feel bad, like this much bad.
Yeah.
You know why? Because I was on the other side of the Bay when they won 3 World Series,
Yeah,
every
you
other
know what?
year, 12,
Actually,
14. Yeah. So I don't feel that bad for him, but they're a rabid fan base that loves the Giants. They show up to the ballpark a lot, and they were really excited to have Aaron Judge come home, and he used the leverage to sign with the Yankees, which is his right. But this one is self-inflicted, it feels like.
Yeah,
If this was like a ticky-tack thing, a negotiating maneuver, you gambled and you lost.
you gambled and you lost big time.
For every guy that bets on himself and has a tough year and doesn't sign a huge contract, there's guys out there that have a great year. There for every team that gambles on a guy and signs to a long term. These are gambles. These are rolls of the dice, and they might have tipped their hand a little bit and said, we got you one more little negotiating tactic. And he said, "Oh yeah, hold on, Steve, is that deal still on the table?" Done. And just said, like, it might have been like, "Oh, is this where you're going to be?" Like, I don't think it is, because have in my small dealings with the San Francisco Giants, very small, Farhan and I are, kind of together from the Oakland days, and
Right, right,
then we
right.
were in camp together. Nothing but respect. I don't think it was like a ticky tack negotiating tactic, but again, this is one of the things where I'm looking forward to see this press conference. I just had an awesome press conference with Verlander, by the
Right.
way. If you want to talk about that in a little bit later part of this episode, which was fantastic, there was some really key pieces that I wrote down. Awesome. But this is one of those like theft ha 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 moments where we got a guy from underneath another organization, and he comes happily. I believe. I think he's really excited to come over here. The couple of Puerto Rican guys come and reunited with Correa and Lindor.
It's really
This is
cool.
how we felt with Baez, but I like Correa
Whole lot more.
100 times better as a ball player, as a clubhouse guy, than I do Baez. I don't know Baez at all. I
Yeah.
don't know him, but what I do know of him came out a little bit in his short stint with the Mets. But I do know that Carlos Correa, everywhere he's went, people love what he brings to the ball club every day. So this is an exciting side.
Yeah. It's, yeah, I mean, you encapsulated most of my thoughts there. I think you did a good job. I mean, this is the only team he was willing to move to third base for, which Carlos Correa's arm at third base is going to be a lot of fun to watch. We can think about the implications of the roster all day, but at the end of the day, it's just good fun, man. I mean, baseball is forever changed because of Steve Cohen, for better or for worse, we'll see. But you think back to a year ago. I mean, we're thinking right now about these players getting paid insane deals. If we're being completely honest, last year we were on the verge of a lockout. We weren't sure when we were going to see baseball again. 1 year later, the Mets have completely broken the concept of MLB free agency.
I think we might see another lockout, because I think the owners are going to.
I think they're mad.
Yeah, and I think they're going to, like, it'll be because you're going to probably see even more so. The owners might be happy with what's happening, because
Cross
now
that
they
bridge
can
when we come
say,
to it.
yeah, that's what they can now say, like, we need a salary cap because Steve Cohen, you can't keep doing this.
Wah,
I
wah.
know. Poor billionaires spending their money.
Wah, wah,
We just
wah.
saw Elon Musk waste 40 billion on Twitter.
Talk to him, Jerry. Talk to him.
Yeah,
Talk to
this
him.
is actually has like benefits. There's a lot of people I know that are so happy right now.
City
This
Field
is,
better have the most capacity crowds in team history next
I
season.
hope
I need
so.
the
I want to
better.
see Mets fans show up. I want to see
There
these
cannot be an empty
season
seat at a
tickets at
wild
a,
card game. There can't be. There's no way. Come on.
yeah. So I hope they show up for their own, their
Yeah.
own, and Steve Cohen, what he's done as a Mets fan for the Mets fans, for himself too, because he loves the Mets. I mean, I hope you show up for
Yeah.
him.
You want to talk about your presser?
Yeah, let's talk about Verlander. Did you
Yeah.
watch it or did you see it at all?
So I didn't get the chance to because I was commuting to the city, which takes
Yeah.
an absurdly long time. But I got the some of the highlights after. But why don't you take me through it?
Yeah, so it was nice and simple, normal press conference. But there's a few things that I heard Justin Verlander talk about that are only reiterated with what's the goings on of lately. He talked about taking a leap of faith based on Steve Cohen. They go, what was the deciding factor? And he goes, Steve, one word. He said, Steve. Um, he signed early. He signed right after Jacob deGrom signed.
Right.
Um, and he was promised a direction of a franchise by Steve Cohen. And he said, that was a leap of faith. I trusted this man to put a team around me that's going to try to win a World Series. That I'm trying to change the face of a franchise with winning attitudes, with winning work ethics, with winning ways, team first oriented. Let's move forward. I think we're seeing that. He talked about like a positive mindset. Back on the leap of faith. So the leap of faith, I don't think players are going to have to do that anymore. Do you remember when Arenado signed that long-term deal and then immediately was bickering with their front office and
For the
ownership?
Rockies, yeah.
Yeah, because he took a leap of faith because the Rockies said, "Hey, you sign. We're going to surround you with great players. Sign this extension. You can be a Rocky for life. We're gonna fill these, this roster with great talent." Because one thing, Denver is always there for the Rockies, rain or shine,
Right.
sickness and in health. That team shows up. So that fan base shows up. And Arenado right away lost faith in an organization because he felt lied to and misled, and they ended up trading him. This leap of faith, that will no longer have to happen. Like, nobody is going to question what Steve Cohen is doing, because it's clear, because he's done it time and time again. This is a destination for players to feel like they're going to be put on a team, because bottom line, this is a game. This is a game where everybody's trying to win the World Series. And if you get a bunch of like-minded people that aren't selfish trying to win, it just is so conducive to create winners, to create people, to be fun, to show up to work every day, not worrying about, internal bickering or what are we trying to do here? Playing meaningful baseball at all times, trying to win, not trying to, stay under the salary cap or trying to be good enough to get traded. This is a ball club trying to win a World Series. No doubt about it. Organizationally, they're still trying to grow, to create amazing ball players, to field an amazing team, to win a World Series every year. Free agents and are going to want to come to New York. It's going to be great.
I mean, Jerry, we lost one unranked prospect this season via trade. Everything else was protected. The Mets have the exact same future as they did before, except for the fact that they spent $800 million to commit to winning now as well. This is like the Dodgers on steroids, dude.
They also are gaining one with Jacob deGrom. They get a draft pick in compensation.
Right. And Chris Bassett as well. That's another pick.
Yeah, and Bassett. So they're collecting a little bit. It's incredible what's happening. It's short term and long term. It's bizarre. It's so wild. They gave a 20. He's going to be 28. Carlos Correa, a 12-year deal. I mean, that he'll be 40, and you'll figure it out by then. But
right,
that is a youth forward. Old guys, high AAV, short term deal. Young guys, a long term deal. Like it's beautiful. But Verlander talked about like the mindset, his intensity, the things that he's learned about his body. These are things that he can communicate to other players, not just. So I love Jacob deGrom. Again, right. Jacob deGrom is the best baseball player I've ever seen in my life. Position player, pitcher. What he's capable of doing on the mound is the best thing I've ever seen. It's a true highlight. I love Jacob deGrom. I think he's like a fantastic person. But I think the way he goes about his business, he's a very, I'm going to do my work. You guys can come hang out, but I'm not going to, he's not like, I don't want to say it in the wrong way because he's not a bad teammate in any sense of the word.
He might have just not been what this team was looking for.
I think the fact that he left made it okay for them to get a guy like Verlander who has the Scherzer mentality of grind it out, get your teammates along. Because Jacob deGrom's he's going to be incredible, but he's going to do what he needs to do. He's going to focus on himself. He's not bad. He's not talking to his teammates. I'm not saying that, but he ultimately is, focused on himself, which is fine. It's a lot of guys are like that, and it's not bad. But if you're capable of taking a smaller deal for a guy like Verlander because of that mindset, I think that fits the mold of what they wanted anyway. Because Martino said right before they went to the press conference, Martino said that Justin Verlander wasn't plan B to Jacob deGrom.
Right.
I think that's true. I think they wanted Jake, but I think it's a Freddie Freeman style thing where they're like, look, this is what we can offer you. We would love you to come back, but we're not going to extend ourselves
Right.
to bring you back just because you've been in a Mets uniform your whole life. Love it or hate it. I still wish he was a Met.
Of
Bottom
course.
line, I would take DeGrom over Verlander for my own personal reasons. But I see a vision for them choosing Verlander over that. He fits the mold. Scherzer fits the mold. And everything I've heard about Carlos Correa and all the evidence points to him being that kind of guy, too. A guy that will rally the troops, a leader in the clubhouse to push example out front. It's pretty exciting to see.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's it's weird because I still remember that initial DeGrom reaction I made, and it was very solemn and kind of down. And last year we had the response to Matt swerve to St. Louis that I keep bringing up, and this doesn't feel like a swerve and a pivot. This felt like the plan all along. The plan was exactly what you said, the Freddie Freeman scenario. Here's what we can offer you. If not, we're going to pivot and do everything else we want to do. And I'm sure that if Jacob deGrom wanted to come and win a World Series, he maybe saw that vision in the Texas Rangers, but I don't think there's a better place to be right now than the New York Mets. And he got what he wanted, and that's okay. But I think that Steve Cohen and their brass, they want their own core. They don't want to hold on to the relics of the core that they inherited. They want their guys. And now they have their guys. They have the five guys out in the field, the two guys at the top of the rotation, and kept all the guys that they really handpicked and drafted. This is their team now. There's no Wilpon-esque element to
Well,
any
I
of
mean,
this.
McNeil and Alonso were a previous regime,
I
correct?
think I think of them more as like Alderson, who is still a guy that's present
Yeah,
in
I'll give you
the
that.
offense. So it's a mix and match. There are some caveats to it, but this really feels like
They're
a
they're
different era.
handpicking. They're
Yes.
handpicking talent and mentality, which is
Yes.
it's you talk about a vision for an organization. This is a literal vision for an organization, a style of guy that they're going after. And when the initial Mets connected to Correa were going on, that Steve Cohen was quoted as saying like, we were just late to the party. It wasn't
Yeah.
that we weren't interested. We were just late on it and we missed out. I don't think that it was on their radar of possibilities, to be honest. And
Yeah.
then another window of opportunity. And I think the fear of missing out and saying, "Oh man, I really
What
could
could
have
have been.
loved having him a part of this organization." And then that door cracked back open, and they said, "Come back." Instant regret.
Yep.
But man, it's fantastic. So the rotation is who's your one, by the way? Who's your number one?
My one is the reigning American League Cy Young, Justin
Okay.
Verlander.
So I think Scherzer is their opening day starter because he was
I'll
here.
throw some money on it. You want to who gets the opening day nod? Who gets game one of the playoff
Apart
series?
from the fact that if they're both healthy and they both
Right.
don't
Yeah.
have any
Yeah.
setbacks
Yeah.
in spring training, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give you I'll what do you want to put on it? What are you comfortable
I'll throw
paying?
50 on it.
All right, deal.
Hey, that's
Virtual
the
shake.
virtual shake.
Yeah, I think Scherzer is because I feel like Scherzer was late to the party in Detroit and Verlander was already established there.
Right.
So Verlander was the guy there. I bet Scherzer's like, I've worn this uniform longer than you have. So take a back seat.
Yeah, one
But
year
in
in the
my head,
Steve
I
Cohen
think
regime.
Verlander's the ace. I think
Yeah.
Verlander's proven um, off Tommy John, older,
Yeah.
that reigning Cy Young, a 1.75 ERA, that he's the one. So you got Scherzer and Verlander. You have Quintana,
Senga.
Carrasco, and Senga. Then
Yep.
you have McGill and Peterson.
Crazy.
7 legit. The bullpen now, we'll talk about it
which
again.
could change,
Bullpen:
honestly.
Edwin Diaz, David Robertson. You have Drew.
Brooks
You have
Raley,
Brooks Raley, and that's a four. Those are wait, hold on. Oh, and
Adam
Ottavino.
Ottavino. Yep.
So you have four solid corner pieces plus Brooks Raley. That's five legit pieces in your bullpen without Nagosic and guys that are kind of question, or your guys Montez de Oca.
Yeah, he's in my
Um,
rearview mirror now. It's okay.
yeah.
Give him some time.
Then you have an amazing defensive lineup. You have a platinum glove playing third base. You have a platinum glove playing shortstop. You have Jeff McNeil, who
Probably should have won a Gold Glove.
should have won a Gold Glove, at least should have been a finalist, but played Gold Glove caliber second base. You got Pete Alonso, who's very serviceable at first base. You have a solid core behind the plate, and then you have Canna, Nimmo, and Starling Marte. Like, it's wild.
We kept saying throughout every free agent episode, this is good. This is going to get the team back to a winning model. I think I said a couple times, I don't know if you can really beat 101 wins, but like, if you get to 90 wins, you're a competitive team, you have a chance. This team, I think, is now better than last year. I think you can definitively say that. I think there's some hitches to that. Maybe you lost a couple bullpen pieces. Jacob deGrom's not in the fold anymore, but he also wasn't there for the whole year. This team, in my opinion, might be the best Mets team in history, and they have to go out and they have to win, obviously, to usurp the 86 and 69 teams. But I think we're looking at potentially the best Mets infield in history, potentially the best Mets 1-2 in their history, and potentially the best back end of the bullpen if they make one more move, which unfortunately we didn't get to talk about for other reasons.
I think it's you got to win the NL East now. You have
Yeah,
to.
have
You
to.
have to
One more
beat the
wild card.
Phillies and the Braves and the Marlins and Nationals, of course. But
Good man.
you have to.
Yeah.
And if you're the Marlins, you have to trade Sandy.
Oh no, poor
Probably to
Marlins
the
fans.
Mets.
That'd be sick.
Be, he would
All
be the,
right,
by the way.
I think
Yeah,
we
it's
we
wild.
should
So
tie a bow on this one.
yeah, so he to me it's World Series or bust now
It is
for the
more so
next
than last year, which
for the
seems
next two
impossible.
years. For the next 2 years, it's World Series or bust.
Yeah,
You can have a
crazy.
very good year. Like it's not. You can have a successful year. They had a good year last year and
They had a
came up
great year.
short.
Yeah,
And they tried the same formula, but they also supplemented it with great moves. To me, you have to win the NL East now, and you have to get to the World Series. You have to
yeah.
get to the World Series. You never know what's going to happen, but it's World Series or bust.
You have to show progress. That's really it. And it's
Yeah.
kind of tough to top 101 wins, but you can really make a statement because the Mets have only won 2 division titles this century. Since 2000, they've only won the NL East twice,
What
and
years?
2000 and 2015.
Okay.
And that's it. So I
Yeah.
mean, or I'm sorry, '06 they won. So maybe 3 times. Point is, you need to make a statement by beating the big brother that has been the Atlanta Braves. You need to make a statement by beating the other team that spent a boatload of money in the Philadelphia Phillies. And you really need to prove yourself to be this powerhouse that's not only just spending money, but putting the talent on the field and producing outside of that money. So it's going to be
Yeah.
a really fun season if you're the
What
New York Mets.
I'm still
Stunned,
blown away.
stunned.
Stunned.
Hey,
All right,
I think
buddy.
I think we did an okay job though.
Holly Jolly,
Holly
Sleepy
Jolly.
Jolly. What do you
I'm
got?
not sleepy anymore. Was sleepy this
Good.
morning.
I've
So
been slowly drinking coffee. I had a 3-year-old sneak into the bed at like 2 a.m, and he's
and
about this big, but he wants to sleep this way. And I just kicked in the face.
he was going,
Um,
Dad, Carlos Correa isn't met, Dad.
I literally like he pushed me and said, "Turn your phone off," because I was like, you know, he kicked me and I looked over and I see this just happiness going on. Oh, Gelbs replied to you, by the way,
Yeah, I saw
live
it
on
was
Twitter.
really funny. We were supposed to have Steve Gelbs on potentially today, and that it's probably a good thing that didn't happen. I think would have been
Yeah,
fun, but
that's wild.
we'll get him on
I
to
love
discuss
Gelbs.
later.
We'll see him in January.
Yes, we will.
I'm gonna get Correa to come on. We'll see if we can
All
do
right,
that.
you got the connects, man. You
He's
make it
got
happen.
commitments now, so
Yeah,
he's got
got to
to
talk to us.
do
All
some
right.
stuff. All right, my
All right,
man.
man. All right, Mets fans, take
Merry
care.
Christmas,
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
Hanukkah, whatever it is. Happy holidays to you, Mets fans. Buy some jerseys, fill
Yes.
some seats. Um, I'll see you in spring training at some point, right?
Yeah, man. Hell
That's
yeah.
exciting. This is bananas.
Absolutely bananas.